Hello, Life Group family. Welcome back to our series in the book of James, Faith That Moves. Today we are going through James chapter 5, verses 7 through 12. In my Bible, this section is titled Patience and Endurance. A key theme that I see highlighted in here is waiting upon the Lord, but not upon the promise. Patience is a fruit of the Spirit that comes from fixing our eyes on the promise giver, not on the promise. Verse 7 says, "Consider the farmers who patiently wait for the rains in the fall and the spring. They eagerly look for the valuable harvest to ripen." Did you just hear that the farmers had patience for the harvest? That's what I heard the first time I read it. But it doesn't say that. It says that patiently wait for the rains, the provision of the Lord, in the fall and the spring, in the timing of the Lord. Verse 9 says, "Don't grumble about each other, brothers and sisters, or you will be judged. For look, the judge is standing at the door." Last week we talked about judging others with our words and how detrimental that is. But we aren't inspired by what not to do. We're inspired by the truth and the promise of God. Philippians 2:14-15 says, "Do everything without complaining or arguing, so that you may become blameless and pure, children of God without fault, that you may shine like stars in a crooked and depraved generation, as you hold firmly to the word of life." Blameless and pure, shining like stars, having patience in a totally new way. Not in buckling down, forcing it out, pushing on it, withstanding it, pulling yourself up by the bootstraps, but in overflowing abundance of the Lord in us. Patience isn't tested in the easy times of abundance. Patience and endurance are tested in the trials. Verses 10 and 11 talk about the prime examples of patience being the prophets of old who were ostracized and isolated, laid on their sides for whole years at a time, married prostitutes who left them over and over again, and all kinds of seasons that were super easy to be patient in, I'm sure. Not. Verse 11 talks about Job and his suffering, yet we see how the Lord showed him favor in the end, for the Lord is full of tenderness and mercy. We give great honor to those who endure under suffering. You could also say that we give great honor to those whose trust and faith was firmly rooted in the Lord their defender, the Lord their provider, the Lord who sees us. Suffering and heartache are actually promised to us. Jesus said, "How much has the Son of Man suffered, and how much more will you suffer in my name?" And yet, the Lord is so faithful to take care of us through thick and through thin, to lift us up, to encourage us. Those that wait on the Lord will renew their strength, run and not grow weary, walk and not faint, mount up on even wings like eagles. For those that abide in the Lord, who put their faith and their trust in the Lord, who wait on him. Be patient for the Lord's return, knowing full well that he pours out rain even now, that he promised that the hearts of sons and daughters would turn back to fathers and mothers, that the Spirit of God will be poured out on all people, that they will prophesy and know the Father's heart, that young men will have visions and old men will dream dreams, that each one is given gifts and healings and transformations and promises and truth to hold on to, for our hope is in the Lord of heaven's armies. The Lord has been talking to me about storms recently, about how storms sometimes feel like pressure and torment and scary noises and flashing lights that impart fear and drive us into hiding. But you know what the Lord says about storms in Psalm 18? It says that when we cry out for help, the Lord hears us, and the earth quakes and trembles. He opens the heavens and comes down with dark storm clouds beneath his feet, soaring on the wings of the wind, veiled in dark rain clouds, raining down hail and burning coals. The Lord thunders from heaven. His lightning flashes, and the enemy is scattered and confused. He reaches down from heaven, and he rescues us. Who do the storms really belong to? The Lord is transforming and working all things together for good in this season. He is taking the very thing that signaled our torment and using it as the vehicle for our salvation. Don't fear the storm. The scary parts aren't meant for you. We'll see you next week.